Hello and welcome to Star Diary, the podcast from the makers of BBC Sky at Night magazine. You can subscribe to the digital edition of the magazine by visiting iTunes, Google Play or Apple News, or to the print edition by visiting skynightmagazine.com.
Greetings, listeners, and welcome to Star Diary, a weekly guide to the best things to see in the Northern Hemisphere's night sky. In this episode, we'll be covering the coming week from the 11th of November. I'm Ezzy Pearson, the magazine's features editor, and I'm joined on the podcast today by astronomer Katrin Rayner. Hello, Katrin.
Hi, Ezzy. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. We've had some really brilliant weeks of stargazing. So what does this week have in store for us?
Well, believe it or not, we have another supermoon this week.
My goodness.
I know we have been treated this year, haven't we?
It's been so many of them.
There has. Yeah, this is the fourth and the last. So if you like the moon, enjoy it. We also have 2 meteor showers, but as you can imagine, the moon is going to be big and bright because we have a supermoon, so it is going to get in the way of seeing them. And Uranus is at opposition and Neptune teams up with the moon. So moonrise, as I just mentioned, the moon is waxing a week to another supermoon on the 15th. You know, it's just been endless because they were consecutive months, weren't they? I think the first one must have been August then.
Yes, August was the first, September, October was the biggest supermoon when it was closest. Though, to be honest, there's not that much difference between them.
No. So, yeah, it's been pretty good, you know, when we've been able to see them. So more of the supermoon in a minute. So I'll just start in chronological order. So the 13th, following on from the 2 clear-obscure effects we had last week, we have another one on the 13th. This time it is the star-tipped mountain. Now, I hadn't heard of this one before, Ezzy, and I just really loved its name. So I did try to do some digging around on the internet, but yeah, to me, it just sounded like something that a book that Arthur C. Clarke would have written.
It does. I was thinking fantasy novel rather than sci-fi, but it has otherworldly vibes to it.
It does. It sounds lovely. I might open a pub called the Star-Tipped Mountain.
That'd be nice.
Quite nice, yeah.
Might be a bit of a commute if you're going to open it on the Star-Tipped Mountain.
That's it. Well, I'll just have lots of nice astronomers coming in for soft drinks, obviously. But yeah, you're going to have to be up early to spot this bright mountain peak. So you're going to need to locate the crater Herodotus, which is named after the Greek historian and geographer, and it's located to the west of well-known crater Aristarchus. So Mons Herodotus is a small mountain. In fact, it's just 1 kilometre high, and it's just located to the north of crater Herodotus. And at around 1:40 a.m., the tip of the mountain peak will look to be brightly shining, hence its name. So I think I'm going to try and search this one.
That one does sound like a particularly nice one.
It just sounds lovely, better than the eyes of Clavius.
Yeah, it's not a creepy face
no, exactly.
staring out at you from them. Though the eyes of Clavius, I think, are quite cute. They look like a little emoji, I think.
Yes, yeah.
But yeah, no, Star-Tipped Mountain definitely sounds a bit more romantic to me.
A bit more glittery and pretty, I suppose, for want of a better word. So yes, 2 days later, on 15th, we have the last supermoon of the year. We mentioned earlier we've had 4 this year, and a supermoon occurs when the full moon coincides with its closest point or perigee to Earth. So it's actually at its closest point on the 14th. But if I've got this correct, supermoons are defined as when the moon is within 90% of its closest approach to Earth. So this one is classed as a supermoon.
Mm-hmm. There are supermoons than other supermoons.
Yes. So I think the one in October was...
Yeah, October was the closest.
Yeah, the closest.
It was 357,300 something kilometres away.
Pretty close.
Yes, so that's pretty much as close as it gets.
I'm not sure how close this one is. I didn't look into that, but yeah, we'll just go as not as close as the one in October.
When it's at its sort of furthest extent away, it's 400 and something kilometres away. So there is quite a big difference between when it's at its closest and when it's at its furthest. So there is a difference in size. You might not just notice it if you're just looking from night to night with your naked eye, but if people compare photographs, or if you have some way of measuring the moon on the night sky, then you would be able to notice the difference in size.
Yeah, so I mean, you know, get outside and have a look, see if you can notice a difference with this one. And if you do want to get out and have a look, then the full moon will occur at 9:29 p.m. And now, Ezzy, in November, the full moon is known as the Beaver Moon, which sounds very cute and fluffy.
Ooh, I'm guessing that must be when the beavers were out doing beaver things.
Yes, that's it pretty much. You've summed it up very well there.
It's like, what do beavers do? They build dams. That's what they
Beavering
do.
around, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, beavering around.
Yeah, so the moon's not going to look like a beaver, unfortunately. It's this time of year that the furry little creatures start preparing for winter. They're building dams, as you just mentioned, and they're stocking up on food. And another reason it could be called the Beaver Moon is possibly because, this is not very nice, they're hunted for their fur.
Yes, they were. It's one of the main reasons why we don't really have a lot of beavers in the UK anymore. And then people went out to America and did the same thing. Fortunately, beavers are very much making a comeback
They are.
at the moment.
Yes.
There's a lot of beavers returning to British rivers.
Yeah, I'd like to see one actually in the wild. That'd be cool, wouldn't it? I should have to take a camera next time and just like sit in a hide for a few hours and try and take some pictures. But there are some other lovely names out there for the Beaver Moon. We have the Freezing Moon, Frost Moon, and Rivers Begin to Freeze Moon. So yeah, it's quite a variety of names for the November full moon. So on the 17th, just after 2 a.m., the 98% lit waning moon can be seen in Taurus, and bright star Aldebaran in this constellation will be located below and just slightly left of the moon. Aldebaran is really easy to spot. It's an enormous orange star. I've probably mentioned, well, I know I've mentioned this a few times. I kind of mistake it for Mars sometimes. So yeah, don't make that mistake. But this star is also known as the Eye of the Bull because obviously it's the eye in Taurus. And the Pleiades can also be spotted to the right of the moon, but the moon's brightness will probably interfere with that star cluster somewhat. You know, it's going to be big and bright.
Mm-hmm. It is nice to be able to see two of those things together, but unfortunately, the moon does have a habit of just washing out all of the interesting bits of the Pleiades, which is all that sort of nice nebulous gas around it.
It's a shame, isn't it? Because you really do notice it in the winter, I think, when the moon is full. It's a lovely clear sky. You just think, wow, yeah, it's a natural light pollution, isn't it?
Yeah.
Washing everything out.
There are some photographers who managed to make some incredible pictures, which do show both the moon and the Pleiades together, doing various clever things to bring out that nebulosity when you normally wouldn't be able to.
Okay.
But that's not how it looks like to the naked eye.
No, it's very different.
Or even the aided eye.
Disappointing, isn't it, when you compare that to a picture, really? So pick it out and have a look because, you know, it will be lovely to see that. And solar system-wise, on the 12th, in the early hours of the morning, planet Neptune and the moon are going to be very close, separated by just 0.6 degrees as they set together at around 2:31 a.m. The moon is, of course, going to be bright. It's going to be 80% lit at this time, and Neptune will be just under magnitude 8. So it is extremely doubtful you will see Neptune with a naked eye because of the brightness of the moon, but you should be able to spot it through binoculars. So I think that'll be a worthwhile challenge. And the 16th, Mercury, tiny little Mercury, is at greatest elongation. This is when it's at its furthest point in its orbit from the sun, but just 1 degree above the horizon and setting around 40 minutes after the sun. It's really poorly placed at this time. But, you know, we do mention Mercury quite a bit just to let people know what's happening with the planet, even though you can't see it very often. Uranus is at its closest to Earth on the 17th and is at opposition, which means it is opposite the sun in the sky. So it's rising in the east as the sun sets in the west, so it's going to be visible all night long. So Uranus will be at its brightest at this point and is currently in the constellation of Taurus. And because it is at opposition, it'll be a great time to point your telescope at it. However, remember, it's also a small planet. You know, it's very far away. And despite it being around magnitude 5.6, it will be...
It's very small on the sky. Uranus itself is a big planet. It's got the name giant in it.
That's it. Yeah, sorry, should clarify that.
But on the night sky, it appears, and it's also very far away, so it won't be very bright.
Yeah, so it looks tiny from Earth, but up close, it's ginormous. So yeah.
Unfortunately, we are not close.
No. So yeah, I mean, it's barely going to be visible to the naked eye, even in dark sky areas. And remember, the moon is going to be bright, so it's going to make seeing the planet quite hard. And, you know, you may consider waiting till the end of the month when the moon is out of the way to get out and have a look at Uranus. And if you are out on the 17th trying to observe Uranus, well, take the time to see the moon and Jupiter together in the east at around 9:30 p.m, located around 35 degrees above the horizon. And Saturn is visible all week. It's at its highest in the south at around 7:30 p.m. at the beginning of the week. Mars will be visible all week too, but the red planet doesn't rise until just after 9 p.m. So, of course, will be seen at its highest point in the sky throughout the early morning. So, yeah, we've got a lot of planetary action this week.
It's always great to hear the planets that are up and around because they are relatively bright in the night sky. Even the dimmer ones you can see with binoculars and telescope. So it's always great to hear that they are coming back and putting on a show for us.
That's it, yeah, because they weren't visible really in the first half of the year, were
No, they
they?
were
From
rubbish.
memory. Yeah, so I think people are getting excited again about seeing the planets. It's great. So we have 2 meteor showers this week. So on the night of the 11th into the morning of the 12th, we have the Northern Taurid meteor shower peaking around midnight. These slow-moving meteors are caused by Earth passing through debris left behind by Comet Encke. And to see these, you will want to locate the constellation Taurus, as this is where they appear to come from. However, the waxing gibbous moon will be making conditions unfavourable, plus the rate of the showers low at around 5 meteors per hour. So, yeah, I mean, it's not great.
So Mary was talking about the Northern and Southern Taurids over the last couple of weeks on her podcast. So if you'd like to hear more about those, do go back and listen through those or read through the transcripts, which should be in the show notes. And it's not the best meteor shower in the world, but if you are out and about looking for something, it might be whilst, you're waiting for your photo to take or whatever, just cast your eye towards the sky in an area, not directly at Taurus, just away from it,
Yeah.
to see if you can see one of these meteors.
They're always great to see anyway, aren't they? Even if you just see one, it's like so exciting. You're like, "Way, can't wait to tell everyone."
Everybody can see a Perseid. Who's seen a Northern Taurid?
Yes, well, this is true. And also, it is quite hard to tell, isn't it? I think when there are a couple of meteor showers around the same time,
Yeah.
some people can tell exactly what meteor shower they've come from.
Yeah, because you should be able to, if you can follow the path of a meteor, you should be able to trace it back and hopefully it will hit one of the constellations that's got a meteor shower going on at the moment. And then you should know that's probably which one it was associated with.
I should maybe try this one day.
It does require a level of sort of spatial awareness that I don't necessarily possess.
And patience, I imagine. So, yeah. And on to the next one then. On the night of the 17th into the morning of the 18th, we have the Leonids meteor shower. Again, the moon, is going to be pretty bright. So these meteors originate from the head of the lion in the constellation Leo. And these are fragments of comet 55P Tempel-Tuttle. And previous years, I thought this was really interesting. So between 1999 and 2001, during a meteor storm, which is, I want to say the word common, but it's not the right word, for this.
Cyclical.
Yes, that's the perfect word there. There were some 3,000 meteors per hour.
Yeah.
Amazing. So
some meteor showers do have this. I think the Draconids is another one where basically we have a meteor shower because we pass through a debris stream left by a comet, and those debris streams aren't constant. Some of them have sort of clumps where there's a lot more material in, and when Earth happens to pass through one of those areas, we suddenly get a bunch more meteors. And I think it's usually at 33 years, which is to do with Earth kind of tilting up and down in its orbit. Sometimes it will be through different parts of that stream.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Still got a couple more years to wait.
Yeah, that's it. And then I was on YouTube then looking at all these videos from, early 2000s that people had taken of this meteor storm. It was fab. It was really, really good. So yeah, like you say, a bit longer to wait now, but I'll mark it in my calendar now.
I think that'll be about 2033.
Yeah. Yes, I'm not even going to say how old I'm going to be. So, yeah. But unfortunately, we're not going to see thousands this year. We're probably going to see about 10 to 20 an hour. But the Leonids do actually leave persistent trains, which is going to be really worth keeping an eye out for. So, yeah, it's an okay month for meteor showers, I'd say. Comet-wise, we'll end with Comet A3. Sushanshan Atlas should still be visible through binoculars all week, starting the week at around magnitude plus 7.5 and ending the week at around magnitude plus 8.2. So you can tell just from these figures really how quickly it is dimming. Yeah, it's a shame, isn't it? It's a real shame, but it's heartening to know that you can hopefully still see it through binoculars.
Yeah.
It just won't be naked eye.
There will be people tracking it for a fair while still, I'm sure.
That's it, yes. So just have to follow people on the internet. So to see the comet, you'll be wanting to be looking for it in the southwest after the sun has set. And obviously, you can track it down towards the west then as it starts to set itself.
Well, thank you for taking us through all of that, Katrin. As usual, there's lots of things to see in the night sky. And if you want to keep up to date with all of the latest stargazing highlights, do subscribe to the podcast, and we'll see you here next week. But to summarize this week again, 2 meteor showers are peaking this week. On the 11th to the 12th, we have the Northern Taurids meteor shower. And then on the 9th of the 17th into the 18th, we have the peak of the Leonids. On the 12th, Neptune and the Moon are separated by just 0.6 degrees as they set in the west. On the 13th, keep an eye out for the clair-obscur effect called the star-tipped mountain on the Moon. And then on the 15th, it's the last supermoon of the year, the Beaver Moon. So please do be sure to catch that one. On the 16th, Mercury is at its greatest elongation from the Sun. Unfortunately, it's not very well placed, so it won't be hugely visible at the moment. On the 17th, Uranus will be at opposition and at its closest point to Earth. Saturn and Mars are going to be visible in the sky throughout the week, and Comet A3 will also be visible throughout the week in the southwest, but it's only visible now using binoculars because it is continuing to dim. That's all from us this week. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you back next week. Goodbye. If you want to find out even more spectacular sights that will be gracing the night sky this month, be sure to pick up a copy of BBC Sky at Night magazine, where we have a 16-page pull-out sky guide with a full overview of everything worth looking up for throughout the whole month. Whether you like to look at the moon, the planets, or the deep sky, whether you use binoculars, telescopes, or neither, our Sky Guide has got you covered, with detailed star charts to help you track your way across the night sky. From all of us here at BBC Sky at Night magazine, goodbye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Star Diary podcast from the makers of BBC Sky at Night magazine. For more of our podcasts, visit our website at skyatnightmagazine.com/podcasts or head to Spotify, iTunes, or your favourite podcast player.